Cool. So, welcome to Wednesday the 22nd. That's today, right?
Day before Thanksgiving.
Day before Thanksgiving. So, welcome everybody. I tried to get the camera in the circle, so yeah. So it feels like you're a part of the circle. So yeah, today the suggested journey topic is about deepening our connection to our spirit guides. So it's meant for both beginners as well as more seasoned practitioners. So yeah, let's get started with doing the thing of coming into the circle. So all right, so say or sing your name and then where you're from and why you're here. So Stephanie from Manassas, Virginia, and I am here because I love journeying, and this is one of my favorite things to share and pass along to other people. So yeah.
Ali from Centerville, Virginia, and I'm here to get to know my inner spirit guides better.
Hey, Barry. And I'm here from Chantilly. And I'm here because I find this a very interesting group. I've been here a few times and I enjoy this journey thing.
I think you won this singing. That was really good.
That was great. Do you want to rattle the newbies in, just in case? Like, just rattle and have them a chance to just pretend like you're in the circle. It's fine.
Welcome the newbies.
Yes.
Hail and welcome.
Hail and welcome, yes. All right, you go ahead.
I'm Josh, newly from Fairfax, Virginia, and I'm here to deepen my spirit guides and reconnect with this journey group.
Cool. Thank you. Well, thank you guys for being here and showing up. So, I wrote a blog post about deepening our connection to our spirit guides, and that went over kind of clarity and discernment, because the best thing to do is to just kind of empty all your crap out first, so then that way you can hear. Well, I mean, it's true.
I know, just like the way you word it.
I don't know how else to be besides colloquial. I'm not a very formal person. It's just empty out your crap. So yeah, with making sure that we receive messages accurately, we have to be able to take care of our energetic container. So if we are polluted with the ideas and philosophies of other people, as well as like the emotions, then we can sometimes end up not being able to hear. And when we end up hearing the voice of our spirit guides in a journey, we can actually end up predicting or just kind of hearing only what we want to hear. So the biggest reason why I started doing this series of the journeys is because, one, other people from other areas wanted to join. So that's something where it's just kind of like, I wish that you did this all over the place. Well, now with the power of the internet,
You can.
we can.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's been one of the things of, I've had a rude awakening lately with some of my spirit guides, and I actually had to end up firing some of them because I realized that I was being influenced, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. You get to pick and choose your own lessons, so it's not like I'm playing the victim, but I should have made better choices. And so now that I have made mistakes and I am picking myself up from those mistakes, I thought that it'd be good for me to run through my own clarity of kind of truth and discernment, as well as being able to pick what it is that I want my lessons to be, instead of choosing the same lessons over and over and over again and banging my head against a wall. I think that it's good to be able to kind of clear ourselves out. And I know that Christina Pratt is really, really big on clearing out your energetic containers, so then that way you can be a clear vessel. Because if there's other stuff that's in the way, what you end up doing sometimes is that you end up projecting your own issues onto somebody else. And so you see your problems in them because you're picking that up, because it's in you. And so as these messages are channeling through, you're also kind of passing along your wounding as like simultaneously with the and it's unconscious, like you're not conscious of doing that. So that's another thing of being able to step out of the moment and be able to really come to clarity with what we are bringing to the table, and saying, okay, so this really activated me, I need to step back and I need to be able to clear this out of my system. And some really good ways to purify are sweat lodges, which there are, it's hard to find a good one, I must say. I finally found a good one that takes place once monthly. And then, but it's hard because sometimes the sweat lodges can be not necessarily improperly run, but again, it's kind of what lessons do you choose to find. So, so yeah, it's all kind of, it is what you make it. So, into how do we begin to tell the difference? So if you're new at journeying, it's one of those things of, okay, how do I tell the voice of my guide from my own head? And that's hard, but the answer is trial and error. So the thing is that if you journey and then you end up getting an answer and you end up following through with that answer, because when you follow through with that answer, you're showing that guide respect. Because otherwise, if you ask for an answer and then you get the answer and then you don't listen to it, it's pretty much like you're disrespecting your guide. And your guides pretty much, like, they can over time go away if they are not like your true. That's why we covered egoic versus non-egoic last week, or the week before last, because the fully compassionate spirits. What was that?
Last month.
Oh. No, it was 2 weeks ago.
When
Yeah.
I came last year, we talked about it, so that was like a month ago, I think.
Yeah, but yeah, no, it was at the beginning of the month. But that's the reason why we went over the fully compassionate ones, because when you start working with egoic spirit guides, sometimes they can end up going away. So that's one of the reasons why sometimes some old traditions don't allow other people to speak of their own spirit guides, and they keep their identities hush-hush because they know that because to protect the identity of their spirit guides. And because they can be bribed, or they can be fooled or tricked or lied to. So those are some of the things that we tend to run into. So it's not a bad idea to work with egoic spirit guides. It's just kind of knowing how to work with them and establishing that connection to the non-egoic or the fully compassionate guides. So yeah, you said that you had you had trouble wrapping your head around that on the.
It was well, the blog post was helpful. It's just I guess I'd never really seen that distinction before in the traditions I read more about. So it's that difficult. Like I don't disagree with it or anything. It's just difficult for me to wrap my head around.
Yeah, that's where it was kind of like when I started talking about, like, okay, so don't read this if you're confused already. But yeah, no, it's a very it can be a very complex system to grasp. But I find that providing that clarity in the beginning really helps a lot of people as they begin journeying, because it can be helpful, but I've definitely been lied and fooled too. And then yeah, so it's kind of one of those things if I really feel like that the guidance that I've received now, because it's more pure and I'm tapping into and I'm getting rid of the baggage and the wounds that I have, and I'm actually doing the work. So that's one of those things of, if you want to receive clear guidance, you have to be clear yourself. And coming into clarity with the difference between the egoic and the non-egoic, and understanding like what type of spirit guides you're interacting with, then you can kind of step forward from there and go, okay, so this information is great. It's able to teach me from a non-biased perspective, and sometimes having a biased perspective is still really interesting. But yeah, some ways to clarify some of the voices and messages that we get are to be able to embody the energies. So dancing with them is a very common way to kind of interact with helping spirits. Singing is another one. And it's where you turn off your monkey mind, where you don't really realize that you're doing it, but you end up doing it anyway because you feel really good. So, so actively doing it, making the time and making the space in order to go to events that have this type of stuff, or just singing really loudly in your car while no one's there.
And radio.
Yeah, radio works. So, but yeah, like consciously being able to call in that relationship and ordinary reality besides just non-ordinary reality, but not just having that relationship in journeying, but also seeing that relationship and anchoring it somehow through some sort of altar practice, through some sort of way that like maybe you put your power animal on the back screen wallpaper of your phone. So then that way every time you turn on your phone, you're just like, oh, hey Jaguar, what's going on? and then you're able to kind of keep reestablishing that connection over and over again, because that's the main thing, is that if you knew who walked beside you, you would never feel alone. So we always have to remember that, because a shamanic cosmology is knowing that you are a part of a greater web of life, that we have a part to play. So yeah, singing, dancing, chanting, those are great ways to embody. And today we're actually going to be asking ourselves, what is the biggest blockage, or what is the biggest challenge that's preventing me from hearing my guides with clarity? Or because there's always something that's in the way. And so your connection can always be more clear. If you ever get to the point where you're just like, I'm good, I've done my work, then no, you screwed up. So yeah, it's about being aware and always being humble and always realizing that there's something that could always be improved. So today we're going to be specifically asking that question. If you're still a beginner and if you really don't know what's going on, you can still journey to your non-egoic and just kind of ask questions about that. So yeah, what's up?
Is it difficult to discern spirit guides? Are there techniques people should be using to make sure they're speaking to that which they think they're speaking?
That's a really good one.
Second question though.
Yeah.
What are the strengths and weaknesses of like egoic versus non-egoic?
Okay, so, all right, I'll answer the first one first. So, so to be able to know that you're talking to that one, because the tricky thing is that guys can change forms. So I'll just put the identity out there, because one of my helping spirits is actually, one of my non-egoics is a dolphin. So this is like one of the most confusing relationships that I've had, because she showed up as a dolphin, she showed up as a whale, she showed up as a fish. So almost any type of sea creature she showed up as, and it didn't take me until like 8 months later to realize in a journey, because I did the show me something I don't know about you that I need to know at this time. And then it was just like this complete mind blow, because then she showed me all of her different shape-shifting, and I'm just like, whoa, non-egoics are totally into shape-shifting. The answer is the frequency. So if you are an advanced practitioner, or if you are more seasoned ones, then you can ask, show me the forms of which you show up as, and show me the energy, or show me the frequency. And it's actually by feeling. So I know that we talked about the internal GPS at some of the classes that I've taught, and then some other practices that are out there are called the truth cord, where you have like where you imagine that your truth cord is running from the center of the universe down to the center of the earth, and it resonates with all of your different chakras. And so the more truth that it resonates, then you can feel it. It's something visceral. And so clair kinesthetic is the ability to feel energy. Mm-hmm. So when you feel energy, you can actually see energy signatures. And so I'm sorry for the people that are still trying to grasp everything. But
yeah, I know some spirits are different colors or different frequencies on the wave. Yeah.
So that's the best thing that you can do, is to take a journey specifically for that. Like, show me your energy frequency. Mm. So one of my teachers, she ended up having a lion as one of hers, and so what she ended up doing was like, show me your true form, or show me your true self, because there's always like a true self or a higher self or something along those lines. And so what ended up happening is that she saw the lion in front of her, and then the lion like almost jumped into her, but right as the lion was like right at her face, which she's in like a journey and she's doing, then it just turned into golden energy, and then it merged with her. So that's the and feeling that energy signature, like viscerally feeling it in your body, and asking yourself, where do I feel this connection? Do I feel it in my solar plexus? Do I feel it in my navel? Do I feel it all over the place?
That's the correlate to the wavelength they're on.
Chakra color. So yeah, being able to ask those types of questions, like that's the reason why we have journey space, is to develop that clarity, because otherwise you can be fooled. So I mean, I've done this for a while, but yeah, you can definitely be fooled, especially if you don't really recognize your spirits that well. You can definitely get imposters, and so that's something that is that's happened to more than one person, and sometimes you do just want to hear what you want to hear, and you don't really get the information that you really need. So, yeah.
It's a matter of practice. Right?
Yep.
And then you realize what's the real stuff and what's
Yeah.
bullshit. So
Yeah.
after a while,
Mm.
you know,
Wise.
you know.
Yep.
So.
Exactly. And sometimes what ends up, I know we're about to, but sometimes what ends up happening is that if you, so this is a scenario that if you actively use shamanic journeying as a practice in your regular life, that you have a question, you ask the question to your spirit guide, then you go back into physical reality, you do the thing, but then it screws up. Then you have the ability to go back and journey and say, okay, what went wrong? So you always have that ability to ask that question. And so that can also help provide clarity, because if you know and learn about the mechanics of how things screwed up the way that they did, and maybe that they didn't screw up, maybe it's just kind of, it wasn't the right timing. Maybe it's just like you got the right information, but you didn't execute it at the right moment because you just needed to wait a little bit longer. So it's all of the, it's all just kind of this divine plan type thing, and learning when to really listen to them.
I think
And,
that's key. Like the
yeah.
timing is, you know, is really important about that, because sometimes you see things in advance and you wonder, oh, and actually it happens, but like 10 years later, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So like you don't, there's no real indication of when it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
It's just there, but you just don't know. So
Yeah.
the timing is really. I don't know if there's any way to figure out when it's gonna, you know. So that is an issue. You said something really important about the timing, like when, like you know, this is the thing. When.
So that's also another good point that you bring up, that another way to clarify your intention with journeying, because it's all about a matter of intention. If you intend to meet your non-egoic spirit guide, you're going to meet your non-egoic spirit guide unless you get distracted. So it's all about your intention and the power of your intention. And if you have that intention of meeting that, and then you add at this time, at the end of your journey question, then you'll be able to kind of put things into perspective. Because sometimes helping spirits will play jokes on you, and they would, especially like Loki or Coyote. So yeah, some of those trickster guides, if you don't ask at this time right afterwards, then they'll really throw you for a loop, and they're just like, watch this human trip. so yeah, not that that's familiar to anybody here, but. All right, so what was the second question that you asked?
I don't want to delay too long, but it was just sort of the strengths and weaknesses of egoic versus non-egoic. Like, what are you getting or giving with each?
Yeah, eventually when you build up your skill set in order to work with both, because I find that the biggest asset to a shamanic journey practice, in my opinion, and I mean opinions can be wrong, and it's also not a bad thing if you start out with egoic versions first, but it's one of the best ways to start out with a fully compassionate or a non-egoic guide. Like, they can't be lied to, they can't be fooled. However, some of the downsides of that is that they can, like, sometimes not necessarily get confused by your journey question, but you can get confused by their answers because your intention is not strong enough. So if you don't do the work to clarify your journey question, then the answers that you receive from your non-egoic guides are going to get muddled. So that's why being able to craft a really great journey question is something that will really help improve your skill set. So that's something that we'll cover next month. But yeah, so we'll be able to do that. But that's the benefit of working with a non-egoic. With egoics, they're great. They've got personalities. They, if you consent to it, they'll kick your butt and they'll remind you of things. I do that all the time. I ask for the cosmic smacks. So, as I find that it makes life interesting. So, sometimes also with non-egoics, they can be a little bit boring. So, especially because they're all about true love and, you know, that big compassionate love, and so it's
less human.
Yeah, they're less human. So I like being able to relate to spirit guides with personality, and they have great opinions, and they are specialists in their area. So non-egoics don't really specialize. They're just kind of all about the universal truths. So if you start doing shamanic healing, then you will have a specialist for psychopomp work. You'll have a specialist for soul retrieval work. And you'll have a specialist that will be able to help you assist in some of these different areas. And sometimes all of those things can be done by one spirit guide. And so, yeah, that's kind of the major gist. But yeah, they can be lied to, they can be fooled, they can be manipulated. And at the same time, they can do those things unconsciously to you. So that's another one of and also you have to feed them all the time. So so sometimes like leaving out like little offering plates, also going out on hikes. Sometimes they'll ask for hikes. Sometimes, like I had a person that came that their helping spirit literally asked them to dance for like every day for a week or something like that.
Wow.
And then they had to keep constantly dancing in order to merge with this helping spirit. So depending on the type of helping spirits that you pick up and that you attract to yourself, they're kind of, it's kind of you finding yourself and peeling off the layers of crap that are in the way of you living your authenticity. So it's really about getting down to the person that you truly came here to be. Because we came with so many pre-programmed things to our operating system that it's just kind of one of those things of, what do we do?
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah, so
That's
you
really
guys,
cool.
so you guys clear on what we're journeying about tonight?
I think so.
All right, awesome. Sounds great. So, clarity, yay! All right, so yeah, I think we're good. So we can turn that thing off.